Today's episode is brought to you by HERdacity. HERdacity is a nonprofit inspiring confidence in women to achieve their professional goals. For resources, networking opportunities, and a strong community of women, visit HERdacity.org to learn more.
Welcome to HERdacious, a podcast for audacious women. Greetings, fam. It's Lorelei, the host of HERdacious. We're recording out of Moon Lab Studios in Austin, Texas, and I am pleased to share this moment in time with you. Joining me today on this show, we have the business strategist for talented tiny business owners, a fellow podcaster, and the creator of Doers, Shakers, Makers, Ms. Sierra Bailey.
Lorelei, I love being here with you. Thank you for inviting me today.
It is my absolute pleasure to have you here today, and it is a beautiful day indeed, and we are enjoying it.
Yes, we are. It is sunny in Austin, and it has not been for a few days. That sounds weird because it's always sunny here, but it helps with the energy, which we're going to talk about today, and I'm very excited about.
I'm glad you brought that up. So today we are discussing energy management and or energy maximization. So what the heck does that mean, Sierra?
That means that, especially for those women, and I think that's all women, who feel like they are constantly being pulled in all directions, to start to understand at what times of day they naturally have the best energy and to make sure that they are trying to do those tasks that fit into that.
So when we have the most energy, understanding when, like a time of day.
That is correct. And we are each unique snowflakes in this. Sure, some people will fall into certain things, but just like some are night owls and some are morning larks, we all don't have the same energy patterns.
So there are patterns that we can learn to identify.
There sure are. And we will get into a little bit of how to track that later. But first, let's talk about what kind of energies you have throughout the day and the tasks that you would match with that.
Okay, well, tell me, what kind of energies would one have throughout the day?
So sometimes you're feeling a little more energetic. Sometimes you want to talk to people. Sometimes you want to sit down and pour your heart out and write out the words on paper that you have in your brain and you really want to get them out. Sometimes you want to problem solve. Sometimes you want to be physical, be it running or going to the gym or even organizing your garage. Sometimes you're really excited to play with your kids, and sometimes the thought of having to roll around on the floor with them exhausts you. So it really is everything from thinking and solving problems all the way to having intense physical energy.
So these energy patterns, are there like peaks and valleys, or is it more like a window of optimal action time?
Think of it if you've ever done time blocking. And I always say to people who have never done time blocking, you went to high school. It essentially is your time blocked into periods, right? You had math at one time, you had science at one time, on and on. So when you think about your day and you think about this is gym time, this is lunch time, this is sit down and write my blog post time, this is talk to my client time. Energy is kind of like that. You find it's not that you're going up and down with energy all the time. You find that your energy maybe ebbs and flows, but it doesn't necessarily drop and then come way up again. Sometimes it could start out in one area and then by the end of the day have moved on to another. So it's not like an up and down, it's going to come back. It may be that in the morning I have really focused energy and that makes me able to sit down and have thinking or reading or things like that. And by the end of the day, I don't have the kind of energy that I can focus with. Instead, it's left my head and I'm now in more of the physical sphere of energy.
Give me a personal example of what the energy management looks like for you.
Love to, because I have spent a lot of time working on this and it has been a life changer. So I've realized my thinking, my reading, my problem solving does the best early in the morning.
How early?
Well, some days I get up earlier than others. So I ideally, and of reading a lot about writers and how they're doing their schedules, I've noticed that people doing creative output tend to fall into that kind of work really early in the morning or really late at night. Part of that is because there are no distractions. So nobody's coming at you. So I will get up. I have a morning routine. We're going to get into that a little later. And then I sit down. I do a little bit of journaling. And I read at that time because I've learned that is when I am the most focused on reading and I can take notes. And this is reading of a business, something nonfiction that I have to pay attention to, not recreational enjoyment.
Educational reading.
Yes. And then I typically will move into some sort of thing that requires me to do problem solving. So maybe that is my creating a course, or maybe that is my going over something that I'm preparing for a client and trying to work on. And it needs a lot of brain power. So my brain is fresh. That's part of the energy at that time of day. But some people don't think that way early in the day. Sometimes their brains are a little sleepy early in the day.
That would be this girl right here.
You have that. So you know that you can't do things like that early in the morning. They just take forever. And then as I move into the day, I start to get a little social. So I really enjoy doing my networking, late morning, lunch, early afternoon, my coffee's scheduled, clients at that time over the phone, because my energy is really, I want to talk to people. I want to put my energy out there. As time goes on, I then the talking goes away. Then I'll go work out because I am like all talked out, probably because I've been talking for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you get I at least get a little resurgence in the evening time, not the afternoon. Most are a little sleepy in the afternoon. And I do great emailing at that time. Oddly, when I'm thinking, I'm not emailing well in the morning.
Like you'd be overanalyzing?
Yes, exactly. Okay. I start overthinking it because that's when I'm thinking really well. So in the evening, I'm more like, I didn't email these 8 people I need to. And I just shoot them out. I'm not overthinking. I'm feeling kind of energized. I don't want to maybe talk out loud. I can do phone calls sometimes in the evening again. And then I'm pretty tired because I like to get up early. And then I move into my hobbies, which are jigsaw puzzling, reading fiction, things like that in the evening, late evening hours.
All right. So you, as a business strategist for small business owners, give me some examples of some of your professional clients. And I'm sure you've been working a little bit, at least on this energy maximization, energy management technique. What are some examples of other folks?
So one client in particular, this was amazing because we realized after, and I'm going to take you through in a few minutes how to figure out your own energy. But when we did this exercise together, he realized that if he did not stop working by, I think it was like 6:15 p.m., very specific, that he would be in his head when he came home and he would not be able to engage with his son and his wife and participate in the family life, in the dinner conversation, and be really involved with them, which was something that he was working on improving. So he started realizing, if I work too late, I can't shut it off. It almost becomes like an OCD track in the head where he can't stop.
I was about to say, 6:15 is a very specific time.
Yeah.
Have you seen patterns like that where they're like, oh, if I do anything after 5 p.m. or anything before 10 a.m., it's like, no.
Yes, absolutely. And when you start with your own self-reflecting on it, you do start to see the patterns show up. And he then realized that it also meant that he was able to fall asleep easier if he stopped working at that time. So it was kind of like a domino effect, that if he stopped working, all of the activities in the rest of the evening went smoothly.
So how do we start figuring out our own energy patterns?
Anything that you're reading about time management, productivity, anything like that, obnoxiously tells you to track your week, and we're into that right now. It does not mean that you have to download an app and get super specific. It just means for about a week, when you are doing tasks, write down what time of day it is. Write down what the task is. Write down how you're feeling. One of the big things you can tell when you're doing things during your correct energy is that you are feeling it. You're in the flow, be it exercise or be it work. And if you are not doing it at your right energy, you'll notice the pattern that every time you sit down at that time of day to do that task, it's a struggle. You really have a hard time. You probably get that little bit of like tired or confusion voice in your head that is like, I cannot do this. I can't focus. I can't concentrate.
The TV looks so enticing.
Yeah, it's because you are just not aligning the task with your energy at that time.
Talk to me more about energy, because it sounds like we have to understand when we like doing these things, when we want to do them, when we maybe enjoy doing these tasks.
And there will be things that you will never enjoy. And those are the things that eventually you can hopefully outsource.
Okay.
Delegate, delete, design out in some way. But you will notice that if you have a job, if you have a business where there are tasks that you have enjoyed doing at times, You're like, why am I not enjoying this right now? Well, you probably were doing them at a time before when your energy was more aligned with it. And then something happened in your schedule, and now you are no longer in alignment with your energy in that task. It's like people that realize that I have no time to work out in the afternoon anymore. I've always worked out in the afternoon, but I have to work out at 5 in the morning. It's the only time I have. And they're getting to the gym and they are miserable and they are not working out well and they are not at all enjoying what they're doing. It's because they do their best working out when they had the option to choose whenever they wanted, and that was the afternoon.
That was not the optimal time for them to go,
but
and they weren't paying attention to it.
Yes, but sometimes it's not under your control. So sometimes you do have to put your task where it will fit in and just accept that that's what's going to have to happen for a little bit. But no, as soon as you can, change it back to a time when it's more optimal for you.
Do you categorize the types of activities that one would do?
Sure, I think of them as problem solving. I think of them as communication. I think of them as physicalness, and I think of them as creative output. So I create a lot of content for my business, and I think of all of that as creative output. Communication is more with a person. So if you are doing a podcast or you are doing a video or something like that, that's more of your creative output because you really have to be doing more things than just communicating. You're thinking about what to say. You're on, sure, but it is more of the making sure you're getting your point across and making sure you're staying on track. But really the problem solving / reading, creative output, which even if you're not in a creative job, you're doing some sort of creative output, I bet.
Right.
Communicating and physicalness are really the big categories.
Okay.
And we're all snowflakes. We all have different things that come into play depending on what our lives are.
Your use of the word snowflake in this instance is amusing. So productivity, making sure that the tasks that we're doing are aligned with the energy that we have available.
Mm-hmm.
How does this affect women particularly?
We're exhausted.
Well, tell me something I don't know.
So, it's interesting. I notice with, for example, my husband that he's very good on his days off of sitting on the couch and playing video games and doing jujitsu and doing all of the activities that are recharging for him and sort of make his energy fill back up naturally. I'm an introvert. I need alone time, quiet time, that kind of thing to recharge. But on my days off, which I own a business, that's hard for me to even say the words without laughing, but I try very hard. I do try to not have sound. So I do try to have that silent introvert recharging, but I'm running around the house like a lunatic, cleaning the house, doing chores, doing all the little things that don't get done during the week, trying to, do my volunteer online tasks and all this stuff. So as women, we just tend to pile on. We don't necessarily take things off of our plates. So one way to make it so we're not exhausting ourselves and not burning out is to be trying to enjoy the tasks that we have to do and trying to make sure that we're at least matching them with what we're wanting to do at the time so that you are not forcing yourself to just be exhausted and instead be like, well, I'm a little tired right now. I'm not going to, run around and reorganize the garage very well. I respect that. I'll wait till later. And right now I'll sit down and read that thing that I've been putting off reading, that stack of whatever books, magazines you've been wanting to do.
So particularly with women, we have all these tasks that we have to get done, and we usually have strict timelines for them. Finding ways to make those activities maybe more joyful, more enjoyable would be a good way to go about doing that. So if we have to do the catch up on the cleaning or the laundry, if one likes a certain Netflix show that you can just have on in the background that might bring you a little bit more joy, or if you're a really big music fan, play the music really loud, or just find a way to make that a little bit more enjoyable, to bring your energy a little bit up, to match the happiness.
Yes, and to make sure that when you're doing these activities that you're not constantly fighting yourself and feeling like you're living an uphill battle. You don't want to feel like every time you set out to do something, you're struggling and it's really hard and you're just exhausted and you can't do this. You want to do things that are actually energizing you and that are actually making your day feel better and like your purpose is enjoyable, not that, oh, I can't believe I have to do this right now, but instead, yeah, I'm going to do this and it's going to take me 15 minutes and then it will be done and I'll move on to the next thing. I've noticed that when people try to push the tasks into the wrong sort of time of their energy, that they take longer.
Would that be energy depleting?
Oh, of course. If you're trying to go, for example, how I said I like to do my networking and having coffees with people and hanging out with them. If I go, even early morning is fine for me because I'm these days a morning person. If I go that happy time for me, that middle morning to early afternoon. I feel so excited when I leave. I'm connecting with people. When I do my gratitude practice in the evening, that's one of my highlights. If I go to an evening one, I am looking at my watch the whole time.
Oh,
I cannot wait to leave. I'm exhausted. I don't want to talk to anybody anymore. It does not feel good to be there. I do not feel connecting. So it turns an activity that at one time of day I love and can't wait to do into another time of day, miserable, and it makes me so unhappy that I'm there.
does it mess up the rest of your day when you've had that
Well,
energy
it's the
misalignment?
end of the day, so I would be coming home and, going right to bed because I go to bed at like 9 o'clock at night. But it does mean that when I get home, instead of doing my wind down evening routine, I'm running around trying to do the things that I would have done earlier in the evening to finish the day. And by the time I get into bed, my head is still going crazy. I can't fall asleep, similar to that client of mine that they had that problem if they didn't stop at 6:15. Engaging with the family, falling asleep, all of that. It has a domino effect. So I then don't sleep well. And then the next day, my day is thrown off because I have not slept well.
Fascinating. Sounds like that as long as we are matching up the times of days where we have the best energy with the activities that match those needs, we are really streamlining our schedule, our days, our weeks. We're helping both our productivity as well as our mental health, our physical health, and our relationships.
Yes, and I'm a big fan of not just saying that we all need to be smarter, better, faster. I mean, that's great. You can strive for that, but we're not trying to be cheetahs who are just sprinting through life accomplishing everything. I'm a big fan of also accomplishing the things that you're doing and enjoying it. I've gone through burnout. I understand that you can't always help it depending on your career and what you're doing and the time of your life. But if you pay a little bit of attention to things like time of day when you enjoy activities, it does make the day-to-day a little bit less stressful when you have all the things going on.
Well, we have a lot of good things going on right now, but we are going to take a moment for a brief sponsor break.
Hi, Barbie here from Moonray, husband and wife indie pop duo. If you enjoy the intro music, we invite you to listen to our debut EP, Honeymoon, streaming now on all platforms. Visit www.moonray-music.com for more.
Alrighty, we're back. And now let's start talking about some processes to maximize our energy. Sierra, where would we start? What's the baseline? Where do we need to go? Where do we need to start to learn what our energy looks like?
Sure. First, we need to figure out what our schedule looks like, what the tasks in our day are like, and what our energy is. So, as I mentioned before, take a week. As you're doing things, don't get fancy. Just grab a scrap piece of paper, jot down, it's 8 a.m. I'm writing emails. I love it. I'm feeling like the words are flowing from my fingers. Or it's 8 a.m. I'm writing emails. It is taking me 45 minutes to write one email right now. This is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So you're starting to pay attention to watch for patterns. Patterns are your friend in things like this. Because when you look back over your week, you can do a few weeks.
Hold on. Do you want to be watching for patterns so soon, or do you want to just spend the whole week just like journaling?
Oh, I'm a number person. I watch for patterns the second I write one thing down.
Okay, so
it depends
your
on your
thing.
personality. Yeah, there will be people out there that immediately want to start to see the patterns. But you also can look for the patterns. So you can say, oh, yesterday when I was writing emails and the words were flowing from my fingers, that was at this time. So you can immediately start to try new times. It just depends on your personality. There are different types of people. There are people that love the numbers, and there are people that really just want to put the words, write a paragraph about their feelings during each of those things. I don't do that.
Okay.
But if you want to, go for it. And then at the end of 1-2 weeks, whatever you're feeling, start to look through. There is no set thing that you have to do. You're going to look through and you're going to say, it seems like I really enjoyed reading, or I actually did it during these times. I had a personal experience of wanting to add more reading into my life. I've always been a big reader. I wanted to become a huge reader.
Right.
So I decided that I was going to work reading into my workday. Very difficult, because then it means I have to step away from the work. So every time I was scheduling reading, I just wouldn't step away from the work. So then I was like, well, I'll read in the evenings. But then I would sit down and I would just stare at the book, and I would not have the energy to actually take notes on the nonfiction. This is nonfiction education type things. I would not want to deal with the task. Then I moved it to early morning in my morning routine right after journaling, and now I read 100 pages before I even start work. I read faster, I'm taking great notes, and it usually motivates me for the day.
I love that the process of this journaling allows you to understand your needs better, your patterns, your behaviors, the things that you like to do, and be able to draw those out at better times for you.
Absolutely, because we really each have unique schedules and unique energies. So it's hard to say there's a set and fast for anything because it doesn't mean all those would line up for any two people.
All right. What's our next step?
So after we understand our energy, we understand our tasks, we're going to do a Michael Hyatt exercise.
What?
Michael Hyatt's wonderful. If you are into this kind of thing, go read his books. Michael Hyatt talks about creating your ideal day, your ideal week. So lay out, where are my best energies? And you can keep this if you ever get into his quarterly journals. This is a 2-page spread in his journals. So you can keep this on your bulletin board in your office, in your desk, somewhere where you can access it. And put out when your good energies are, kind of time block it out, and where the tasks fit in. So this is where you would love to be. Most of us will not live in our ideal week, unfortunately.
If only.
You could try. If you are self-employed, you may have a little bit of a easier time. If you are somebody who is a remote worker, you also will have a little easier time. Not all of us have control over our schedules, especially if you have both an employer and children. They really dictate a lot.
Right.
But understand what your ideal day and your ideal week is. If you're starting to feel really off, if you're starting to feel really energy drained, if you're starting to feel like everything is frustrating and a struggle, first make sure you're not hungry or tired. And then look at your ideal day and say, I am opposite of what my ideal day is. No wonder why I'm all freaked out. Nothing is really lining up. I'm trying to push myself when I can't, and I'm struggling through everything. I'm not ever reaching flow. I'm just feeling like everything is tough. You want to know what flow is?
Let's come back to that.
Okay.
But I know that you saw my face and y'all couldn't
Yes.
see my face, but she saw my face and I want to talk more about flow. But we'll come back to it. Keep going.
So ideal day, ideal week is a wonderful day for you to not only strive to have as many of your tasks and your energies lining up, but as a way to know if things are starting to not feel right, look there first before you start thinking, I hate my job, I hate everybody around me, I don't want to talk to anybody anymore. First look and see, wait a minute, am I out of sync? Or, like I said, hungry, tired, or not exercising. Those usually have factors too.
Right.
And then you can start to say, where can I move things around so that I'm at least enjoying, if it is a work activity, if I at least am not answering emails at the worst time of day to answer emails so that I'm frustrated every time I sit down to write an email. So if I can at least move this around a little bit, now emails will be enjoyable to write, not me thinking everybody's yelling at me.
And then
you would either check into what your routines are or implement some. So what are routines?
rituals also?
Either or. I go with the word routine. You would use ritual. Morning routine, start of workday routine, end of workday routine, evening routine. These are, and I have been implementing these in my own life for years. Again, Michael Hyatt also is very into them, and I am a big fan of his, so I give credit where credit's due.
We'll leave some information about Michael Hyatt in our show notes for those of you who want to check it out.
When you have a series of actions that go in a sequence, it is a routine. So a morning routine could take you 15 minutes. Some people have a 2-hour morning routine. Mine's getting longer now that I add that 100 pages of reading into it.
I bet.
Yes. What you are doing is triggering your brain to know what is coming after that routine. Also, I have read probably 6 or 7 books on morning routines. When you are building a morning routine, you are basically not using your brain power to do anything before you are sitting down to work. So everything is ritualized.
It's like automated for your brain.
Exactly. You're not making any decisions. This, again, comes a lot from writers. People who are feeling like they have to sit down and write 3,000 words, write X amount of pages first thing in the morning. They don't want to be using brain power for anything until that step. So they are getting up and doing the exact same. They're brushing their teeth, washing their face. I actually have the same exact thing that I put on, even if I'm going to be leaving the house that day. I go make my coffee with the French. I have detailed written my morning routine for people and in blog posts. I then, if I have to leave the house for the day after my morning routine, which yes, means that I have to get up earlier than I used to in order to do that, I then go and put on my outfit to leave the house and all of that. But I have triggered myself to know that that is the start of my day. If I don't have to leave the house immediately, I have another routine that is my start of my workday. And that means when I sit down at my desk in order to start having, let's say, creative output or something like that, I have another series of things. Takes about 6 minutes. And I go through that series, and then my brain says, great, now it's time to work.
Fascinating. So we have tracked our patterns. We are more aware of ourselves and when we're more energized to do certain tasks. We have moved into understanding what our ideal day would look like. And we've also analyzed our routines, our patterns, our rituals, and better know ourselves. Is there something else?
Yes, we have 2 more things.
Okay.
So the next one is trying to put things in place that protect your best energy times.
Like boundaries?
Like boundaries, but more things that you can put into place that automatically do it for you without you having to have the awkward conversation. For example, if you have a schedule that your team has access to, if you have a schedule that your clients and people that you are connecting with have access to, put blocks in that you have a meeting. They don't have to know it's with yourself, but actually block out the time where you have the best energy to do the work task while you're at work and protect that time so that you know that if you have to put out some sort of content or you have to sit down and focus and read something or you have to send out a whole bunch of emails or write a report or whatever you have to do, that you are doing your best to protect that time so you can do those tasks during that time.
You've implemented little shields around your window.
Yes, absolutely. And I do that with myself. And I surely encourage clients to do that all the time because usually if somebody says to me, well, I always seem to have meetings at this time. I'm like, because your schedule's open. And so people see that that spot is open and maybe their best time for meetings is during that time. So they're going to look for it. If it's never available, guess who won't have a meeting scheduled at that time?
How do you protect your time as a at-home business person? You live in the place that you work and you don't live there alone.
I'm very lucky that my husband is not at home when I'm working.
Okay.
I know some people have a partner that they cannot. A lot of people that I talk to have a partner who also works at home or who even works on the same business with them, which you really can't get away from it then. So I actually have worked with people on this and I've said, you need to have a conversation with them so that they know, first of all, because if this is all in your head, and you're not communicating with the people around you, with your boss, with your coworkers, with your family, nobody knows that you are struggling of trying to do your work during this very specific time and not able to unless you tell them.
Right. You don't want to take the meeting at 10 o'clock, but you keep doing it so they think it's okay. So they keep scheduling it.
Exactly.
Or whatever it is.
If you don't speak up about it, they don't know. The first thing is that if you are somebody who does not really have control of your time at all, is to talk to the people who are needing you during those times and to explain to them what's going on. If it is somebody that you work with, they're going to be pretty excited that you're trying to work more efficiently and they'll probably get on board or at least in whatever way they can help you do this. Maybe then they'll do the exercise. You'll realize you guys line up on different times for meetings. You never know.
Let's fall down a rabbit hole for just 1 second. Is that okay?
Love it.
In the professional setting, if coworkers are hollering at you during the time where you need to be getting some work done, how do you have that conversation where you're like, hey, I need to protect this time. Please help me in that.
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things you can do even past the conversation because it might be a little hard. It will take a little time. You may have to have more than one conversation. So realize that too. I would sandwich it with any type of conversation like this. You say something wonderful. Oh, I so love our collaboration time and I really love working with you, but I have been doing this experiment with figuring out my energy and how I'm working, and I'm realizing that I'm taking so much longer to get things done with interruptions during this time. Like, do we think it's okay if I have this time to myself and then say after that something nice, and then I'll let you know how, my work has been accomplished better or whatever. It's hard to do a vague statement like that without knowing what the situation is, but you're basically saying to them, love talking to you, things are great, but I need to block this time out. So people have told me, had the conversation, I'm still getting interrupted. Few things you can do. Get big headphones and put them on. You are physically putting a boundary over your head. So people won't talk to you. You don't have to have anything on them. You can just have silence in there. But just to say, oh, don't interrupt me right now.
That's a pretty clear indicator.
Yes. You could even make a little sign that says like, I'm trying to, if you are in a company where people understand what your work is, I'm trying to accomplish this thing. I'm on a deadline. Please respect. Put that up. You can go find another room. I know a lot of offices have conference rooms that are available to sign up for during the day or to use. That's another option. If you can just get out of there, that's a third option. Maybe if you can work from home sometimes, you're trying to, like I said, depends on what your ideal day is. If it's in the middle of the day and you have meetings on either side of that, leave-it is not an option. But you never know when your energy is. If it's at 3 in the afternoon, maybe having the afternoons off to work from home or something possible. But I would start with the conversation and then go to maybe having a little sign up if you're in a cubicle or something, or shutting your door if you have a door, or putting on headphones and actually having a physical barrier to remind them. They're not going to remember what your schedule is. They're all up in their schedule. If it is something where people can communally see your schedule before they talk to you, have it blocked out.
Nice. Anything else that we need to?
I'm going to follow up on that if you do work with a partner or you're in your home and you have family, you sometimes can't avoid having a spouse who wants to interrupt you and say hi and talk to you. So again, if you have a door you can close, you can do the headphones, having a real heart-to-heart conversation of, please help me through this. Don't be a hindrance to it. Help me out. You love me. You want me to do well. I really need this time to do this. And repeat it enough, they'll start to get the picture. But you may have to repeat it a few times. Nobody learns once.
Well, patience is a virtue.
That is right, which brings me to the final thing. You have to give yourself grace as well. You may not get onto your schedule and pay attention to your times that well for a while, and that's okay. If you're hitting one time of day once a week, that's better than when you were hitting none.
Yes, yes. Progress is progress.
That's right. So don't think that you're going to all of a sudden turn your life upside down. This is more a way of saying, hey, pay attention to when you're enjoying doing those tasks. Try to put more in that zone and not make it a struggle. You by no means have to make your whole life into, I'm only doing things during this time. That's impossible. So give yourself grace and be understanding of what you are capable of.
I super love that. Well, we fell down that rabbit hole a second ago about the professional setting. And I want to kind of go back to knowing your schedule. What about for folks who are in very structured corporate environments where they don't have as much control over their schedule as I feel like many, many people do these days? What if you're still in a very regimented space and it's not aligning with you? How do you make some of that work better?
That is where having your ideal day is helpful and your ideal week, because you're going to look at it as an overview and you're going to say, is there any way that I can fix this? If you have, oh, I'm really good at getting quiet work done in the mornings, can you go into work an hour early and actually adjust your schedule a little bit so that you are putting it more into it? Can you schedule a meeting for yourself during your time when you actually are having your block? So you are taking a time of day that would be replaced otherwise. So instead of answering your emails when you first get to work like you always have in the morning, trying to schedule the meetings if you're a better communicator at that time of day, and then doing the emails later in the day. Some people also are very reactive with their schedule. This is a problem for small business owners. They tend to get up in the morning, check their emails, and immediately go into somebody else's problem because they're answering emails and doing that. So I'm always telling people, I don't check emails until after I'm done reading in the morning. If you're in a corporate environment, you may not have that. My husband, for example, has to answer emails at all hours of the day. In the middle of the night, it does not matter. He doesn't have the luxury of that choice. So there is nothing, he cannot answer emails during his good communication time because it would be hours past when they needed an immediate answer. You sometimes won't have that control. Look at that ideal week, look at that ideal day, and see the places where you can match, and then give yourself grace on the other times.
I have seen a fascinating little email response hack where folks turn on an automated response when they're not able to check their emails. They literally put a note that says, I check my emails at X time and at X time.
Absolutely.
I will respond to you then.
Absolutely.
Like, thank you. I'll get back to you soon.
And that is exactly what is trending more. People saying, I'm going to check my email at the beginning of the day. I'm going to check my email at the end of the day. And in the middle, if there is an extreme emergency situation, the people that need to get in touch with me have my cell phone to text me or call me. And that works for a lot of people, not all. So
Right.
you have to respect the industry that you're in. If you are in any type of customer service, that will not work. You have to be more on call. But for many of us, that's a wonderful option. And that's an okay thing to do and acceptable. And by your seeing that email signature, it's people starting to do that to protect their time better.
I thought it was pretty crafty. All right, so we've gone through the processes to understand and manage our energy. What's the outcome that we can expect from initiating this process?
The ideal is to enjoy life more, to not burn out, to feel like as you're going through your day that you are not feeling like everything is a drag on you and you're exhausted and you can't do it all. It is a way to help you feel excited about the things that you're doing because you're going to enjoy the things that you're doing them more at certain times of day instead of dreading, like me being at a networking event at night.
Right. Is this where that flow thing comes in?
Well, if you are lucky, you're reaching flow often. Flow is basically reaching a state of work where you are in the zone. You feel like the words are flowing from your fingertips. You feel like you're on. You feel like you're a superhuman who is just doing your best ever. And a lot of people strive for flow. A lot of things that go into that are 1, doing work at the right time of day. 2, not being distracted and taking out of the work because every time you get an email or you get a text, it takes you 20 minutes to get back into flow.
Right.
So having a flow state is very reliant on making sure that you are doing that work during your prime energy time. So the other benefit of matching your energy with the right tasks is that you do avoid the feeling of getting stuck. You do avoid that feeling when I'm sitting down in the evening and I want to be reading something that is in an educational manner and I'm staring at the page and I'm unable to read more than 4 sentences without wanting to fall asleep. And it's not because I'm tired, it's because I don't want to do that task right there. It avoids you sitting at your computer having no idea what you are supposed to be sending in these 18 emails that you have to send out right now and just wasting your time of sitting there and then ending up on Facebook mindlessly clicking. So it is a wonderful way to help avoid that stuck in something that is just not working. I actually think that people use writer's block to explain the feeling of trying to write at a time when their energy does not align with it.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I like your hypothesis.
Thank you.
Optimistically, if we have worked through the entire energy management process, our outcomes would be to, help me, Sierra, avoid getting stuck.
Yes.
And to engage in flow.
Yes. And to have more enjoyment in your day.
Joy. I love bringing joy to the workspace because if you're not enjoying your work, you're probably dying a little on the inside, and I don't want that for any of you.
If you're not enjoying life in general, which some people don't. There are some people that just wake up every day and they don't care what's on the agenda. They don't want to face it because they just don't care about it anymore. And I'm not talking about clinical depression. If that is the case, please seek professional help. I'm talking more about when you just say, I don't care about any of this. This all seems very not enjoyable to me. What is the point of my doing any of this? This is something that really helps a lot of people get through that, especially when you're feeling in your career like you're in that middle area. You know you have to be at this job for a while. You know you have to, in your business, get through a hard point. Not everything is always exciting and new and fun. Sometimes you're just kind of in the middle of it and it's not exactly the most thrilling time of life.
Right.
But you still have to put the work in. So try to make it so you're not dreading doing that middle work, but that you are at least saying, hey, I'm writing these emails and they're flowing and I'm the best email writer ever. It's perspective.
Well, you are the best guest ever. I have so enjoyed our time, and I have really appreciated you bringing wonderful energy and flow into this conversation about energy management. Thank you on behalf of all of our listeners.
Thank you. And I'll be really excited to find out if you change your podcast recording time after this episode.
Oh my goodness. Homework, y'all. Homework. All right. If y'all enjoyed Sierra as much as I do, please check out her Facebook page, Doers, Shakers, Makers, or even her podcast, Doers, Shakers, Makers. You will find lots of valuable information and tools.
That's right. I help provide the education, tools, and support.
Love it. Well, to close out today's episode, I would like to yet again share a Femme fact with you to stimulate your brain and increase your knowledge of women's history. Sierra, did you ever hear of Mary Kay Ash, the pink Cadillac lady?
Of course. She lives in Texas.
Right. Well, how about Madam C.J. Walker?
Not as much knowledge, but yes.
You have?
I have heard of her, yes.
Excellent. All right. So Madam C.J. Walker was one of the first self-made female millionaires in America. having built an empire off of a wildly successful skin and hair care line for African American women. Madam C.J. Walker was born in 1867 with the birth name Sarah Breedlove, which I think is a really cool name. She was the family's 5th child, but the first one in her family to be born free. Walker worked her way out of poverty as both a laundress and cook in her early career, but still struggled financially and physically as a result of the labor that she endured during those times. It wasn't until 1904 when she began using African-American businesswoman Annie Turbo Malone's the great, wonderful hair grower, and joined Malone's sales team that she decided to move to Denver, Colorado with $1.25 in her pocket to launch what would become her $1 million business known as Madam C.J. Walker's Wonderful Hair Grower. The impact of Walker's hair care products brought African-American women into the advertising scene as both consumers and producers during a period when American advertisers were predominantly catered to and by white women. There were few products designed for African-American women at the time, and even fewer advertising agencies employing them. But Walker gave these women an opportunity to belong in the workforce. In her final year of life, Walker's business exceeded $500,000 in profits, which would today be valued at around $7 million, y'all. Towards the end of her life, she was a passionate advocate and philanthropist in and for the African-American community. When she passed away at the age of 51, she stipulated in her will that 2/3 of future net profits of her estate would be donated to charity. Madam C.J. Walker, or Miss Sarah Breedlove, was an inspiration and a civic role model for the women of her time, and we honor her service today. And that is all the time we have. If you liked our show, please subscribe, and please tell a friend. Your recommendations bring us joy. Until next time, get out there and be bold. We got your back. This is my first time recording this early in the morning. I'm so not awake.
I called that one.
You did.